Hi everyone, welcome to our final tutorial now before the branding project hand-in. And all we're going to look at in this tutorial is some effective ways really of mapping your logos onto certain things, textures, fridges, and anything you want really, whatever you can find online you can map it onto. We're just going to go through a couple of quick ways to do that. So we're going to start with a thing called a displacement map. This will all become clear as I go through. So if I just click File, come onto Photoshop, click File, Open, and I'm going to grab an ice texture that I got off a free stock website here. So if I click Open, now there's my ice texture. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Jägermeister logo that we traced a while back as my example. Obviously you will use your logos that you've been working on. And the idea of this is I'm going to drop the Jägermeister logo in here, and I'm going to embed it into the ice as best I can. So when we finished, it looks like it's been chiseled out of the ice. It takes a bit of time to do. You got to kind of play around with it, but some really interesting stuff you can do. And you don't need to do this, just with ice. You can do this with anything online, any texture, a side of a building, anything with an interesting texture that you want. Your logo to look like it's been chiseled out of or embedded in, you can do with anything. So how do we do this? Well, we firstly create our displacement map. So if we come over here to our layers panel, go through to channels, and what we're looking for now is the channel with the greatest contrast, and 99% of the time that will be red. Let's say if I click blue off here, there's red there. If I click to green and I click to blue, there's not much difference in these, but 90, go for red pretty much every time. It will create the biggest contrast. So I got that selected there. I right click, duplicate channel. What I do then, I want to create a new document. Fantastic, and you can see now I've got Untitled one up there, and then my original document here. So if I come back to here, now I'm going to put a bit of blur on this just to give it a bit more of a bit, take the edge away. So if I go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, and yeah, 0.7 should be fine. That's about right. Click OK. Now I want to save this now as my displacement map. So if I click Command S or File, Save, there he is. Save this to my desktop as displacement map. There he is. So if I click Save, that's saved there. That's fantastic. So I come back to the original document now. And I turn these back on. So there we go, I'm back to my original file. Come back to my layers. Now what I want to do now is, if I go into Illustrator, which I've opened up already, and you can see now I've got my my Jägermeister logo here. You don't have to do it from Illustrator, you could drop in a JPEG, but I like, if I drop this in now straight from Illustrator, so if I press Command C, and I come back to Photoshop and press Command V, paste as pixels, that's fine. And when this comes in, now you can see I've got no background white or anything. If I dropped in a JPEG, I would have a white background, which will take away from the effect, really. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. If I click Enter, there we go. I've got my layer there, and I can, if I use Command and click Background, I can then, use the Align tools up here if I want to make it perfect. So how fussy you want to be. Right, now what I'm going to do is displace this into the ice. So if I go to Filter, Distort, Displace, there he is. Horizontal scale, yep, all those are fine. If I click OK. Now what it'll do now is ask me to put the map in, and this is where you need to remember where you saved it originally. So try and create a new folder to do this and save all the source files in that folder. Come down to Displacement Map. There it is, click Open. And now can you see that the Jägermeister logo has quite trippily really embedded itself into the texture of the ice, and you can do some amazing stuff. It really does depend on the texture you find and the how far you're willing to go with it, really. Now obviously I can do a lot more to it from here, so I've got my layer there. Now if I go to my blending options here, I can play around with these and pick one that works the best. Like overlay, that's pretty cool. Let's try soft light. It might be a bit too much. Hard light. There's so many options really you can play around with. Screen gets rid of it. I'll go with overlay for now. Obviously, it's a little bit bright, but we'll work with it in that way. I can always sort of use my adjustment layers here to change the color and stuff. And then I can also add, if I can right click blending options, maybe I could add like an inner shadow to it, and if I bring that shadow right down, I bring the distance right down, maybe put size 2, bring the distance there, so it just looks like it's just been slightly chiseled out. Maybe change the color of this to something a bit sort of lighter, or come there maybe, something like that. Press OK. Now see, when you zoom in now, you can see how, I know it's pixelated, but can you see how the effect is it really looks like it's been sort of chiseled into the ice, or in behind the ice maybe. I could even come back and change it to soft light, and that looks a bit more like it's behind the ice or anything. So you can do a lot of stuff with this displacement map. I really recommend that to take your brand to the next level, you do stuff like this. And that's it, guys. That is displacement maps. So the other thing I want to show you then, and we've covered this before. If I go to File, Open, and I open up, I've got a sort of mini bar fridge here. This is the kind of thing. Oh, hang on a sec. I think I had a. Oh no, I am. I'll get rid of these later on, and I'll give you this file to work with. In fact, we could do it now. If I just use my my clone stamp tool, there we go. Use my brackets to bring that up. If I hold Alt and click, and I can clone this then. Yeah, if I click Alt there maybe, and I can clone the texture, and I can cover this up like that. And if I come down to here maybe, bring that down a touch, hold Alt, click, and clone this. And that's a clone stamp tool. So there's a little added bonus here for you guys. All about that, all about bonuses. Fantastic stuff. Right, so there's our sort of freezer, whatever you want to call it, which we're going to drop the logo into. So if I come back to actually no, I'll set this up in here first. Now remember we did I can't remember what it's called now. Mapping with the books. Now we can quickly do this in Photoshop as well. I know last time I said go into this, create a grid. Now if you had the dimensions of the fridge, which I believe some of you do, you would obviously set up a document that's the size of the dimensions of the front, and you drop them in. But because I don't have those dimensions at the moment, I can quickly just create something. So if I just grab a rectangle tool, it's in white, that's fine, and let's just create a rectangle that size. There we go. And if I right click it, convert to smart object. Smart object was what I was looking for. Yep, that's fine, that's a smart object. If I go to edit, transform, distort, and I can then say map the side of this. I'm doing this very quickly, guys. Remember, you'll take much more time than me. There we go. If I click OK, click enter even, that's my map there. Now if I come back to Illustrator, if I Command C again to copy that, come back to Photoshop, and I double click to go into my displacement map. There we go, there he is. I could get rid of this background layer actually if I so if I use a magic eraser, rasterize the shape, yep, that's fine. Click it to get rid of it, and then if I press Command and V, paste as, I'll just paste as pixels for now, that's fine. And then I could do something like this then. If I bring that to the, sort of this coming off the edge maybe. Click OK, that's fine. I'll change the color of this, so if I've got a layer 2, blending options, and color overlay, maybe make it like the Jägermeister orange or something like that. OK. And then if I press Command S to simply save that and come back to my minibar fridge, and there we go. I've got my Jägermeister logo on the side there. If I was to come back in, create a new layer maybe here, and if I overlay that with black, Command S to save, come back to my minibar fridge, and there we go. Now you can see there that looks a bit what's it called? A bit stretched, and that's because I haven't done it with the dimensions properly. But obviously when you go in, you'll you'll know the dimensions and you can set that up accordingly. And that's why smart objects are good, because you can sort of bring it off the side and stuff. But if you've got a shape like this, for example, now you could use a displacement map. You could maybe grab the magic wand. You could sort of right click, select that, right click, layer via copy, and you could use that as your displacement map maybe. But to be honest with you, because there's little texture going on, I don't think you could simply get away with, grabbing the logo again. Yep, Command C, come back to Photoshop, and I'd be tempted to just literally Command V, paste it as pixels, rasterize it. Yeah, maybe like that big. And then if I like, blending options, change the color of it, maybe to that orange here. Fantastic. And then if I oh sorry, I don't want to do that. Create a new layer, and I'll just merge those layers then, so that obviously I could make the orange in Illustrator, or I could do it in here. And now all I got to do there is, if I go to transform, and I can use my tools again then, so I could just distort this to the front, so it just looks like it's on a bit of an angle, something like that, or I could warp it or whatever. So it depends on what you're after, really. Something like this, where, and if I came in layer 1, and then I could maybe try some of these. Oh, sorry, I could do this here. Try some of these options. Obviously, overlay's a bit too dark. Hard lights, changing the colors, soft light. You've got to play around with it. Or I could even just drop the opacity to, say 90%, and then you get like a faint line coming through there to show that it's on a bit of an edge. So it's down to you guys to play around with it. But that's it, guys. It's that simple, really. So like I always say to you in lectures, a massive part of this branding project will be showing those guys how this logo is going to work in a variety of different circumstances and scenarios, and using a combination of something really cool like this, where you could sort of punch the logo into a side of a glacier, or put it on the sand of a beach, maybe, to sort of say, oh, we could sort of sell this abroad, put it on a glass or something like that. And then also put your logo on as much as you can. Look at Red Bull, they put the Red Bull car, everything like that. Logo on loads of stuff using these techniques, the smart objects and simply the edit transform. And the more you can visualize this logo, the better, really. Photograph your friends, put it on t-shirts, do as much as you can there. So that's today's lecture, guys. Have some fun with it, and when you're sort of happy with everything, move on to the next tutorial.